you this afternoon, this morning, whatever time it is where you are. How are you doing today? I hope you're having a great day. Here in Spain, it is hot, hot, hot. So I've got the fan blasting at me, but I'm so excited to be here with you and especially to have this conversation. So, this is going to be one of these little live sessions where I have a chat with a filmmaker. And I'm kind of excited about this. This is a filmmaker that actually I have never met before. So, this is going to be our first time meeting. But Robert reached out to me a while back to say that he had read my book and it had helped him immensely to get his first film made. And since then, he's actually made 9 films. Like, I'm like, what? So I'm so excited to have this conversation with him and discover, like, what? How? This is amazing. And I'm just seeing a bunch of you coming on live. I'm so happy to see you. If you're here with me live, please do say hello. Let me see. We've got Doug. So good to see you. How are you doing? I know Doug is on the path to making film number 2. So excited for you. I see RJ is here. I don't know whether it's called RJ or Robert. So I'm going to see if I can add you. I'm going to invite you to this call. Let's see. Search RJ. The conversation with us. Let's just say I'm super excited to do this. We have never actually met before, Robert and I. So you're about to see two people, two humans meet for the very first time. We have never spoken. Here we go. We're
Hey,
live.
hey,
Hi.
how are you doing, Diane?
I'm,
How's it going?
I'm good. How are you? I'm going to turn my volume up. Let me see. Is that
Yeah,
better?
can you hear me
I
fine?
can hear you. It's a little quiet, but I can hear you. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Yeah, let me see. I got mine turned up all the way. So this is the first time I do a Instagram live. So this is kind of like new to me. It's always every time I do something new, I guess you're involved, right?
It's fun though. This is great. Well, thank you so much for coming on and
Well,
having this chat with me.
well, thank you for
Because,
having me.
well, from the moment that you wrote to me earlier this year, I was like, I need to have a conversation with you because this is incredible. And I live for these stories where it's like, oh, I want to do this. I desire to make films. And then it's like, I've done it. I've made my film. And there's so many people who want to do this, but don't do this. So I'm just like super excited to talk to you and really like dig in with you about like how you've managed to have the success that you have.
Yeah, well,
So thank you.
thanks for saying. Well, it kind of goes back. I'm gonna get into the film part of that, but I have to get to how I got to there, so it can
Yeah,
make a little
absolutely.
more sense. I am a disabled Iraq War veteran. I spent 26 years in the Army here in the United States,
Where
and
are you from
when
originally? Do you mind me asking? Because I do I hear a little accent? No, the sound was funny. I was just asking where you're from originally.
oh yeah, my parents are from Cuba. I was born in
Okay,
Miami, Florida, so I'm a Cuban American, right?
okay, amazing. And then
So
you joined the U.S. military.
yeah, I started in the reserves and I spent my whole time in the reserves. I never really, it really wasn't a thing until 9/11. And then I ended up getting deployed to Iraq. I spent a year and a half deployed, and when I came back, I didn't come back the same way. So I was dealing with a lot of PTSD issues and stuff like that. And I got medically retired from the Army in 2015.
Mm-hmm.
So I sat around for a few years, just twiddling my thumbs and not really knowing what to do. And then in 2018, in February of 2018, my mother passed away. She had dementia. She had cancer. So I was going through a lot of difficult time just dealing with my PTSD and processing things. And I saw this thing for Actors Access and Backstage.com and stuff like that. Now, my grandfather was an acclaimed actor and poet from Cuba, from the radio days and then TV and stuff like that. And I used to, my grandfather had an amazing voice. He was just a great actor, but I never had the acting bug. It never had something that hey, this is what I want to do. As a matter of fact, that wasn't me. So, but when my mom passed away, I don't know what got into me, and I discovered acting as an outlet just to, I guess, escape from whatever it is that I was going. So I remember going to my first audition in shortly a couple of months after my mom passed away, and it was in Washington D.C. and it was for a 1940s Southern racist. Right now, I'm Latino. I knew I had no chance at all of getting it, but I figured, hey, let me go, let me learn something because to me it's more about the learning than anything. If I don't get it, at least I'll learn something. So to me, I'm very curious about those things. So I made a day trip to Washington D.C. with my daughter. We did the audition. I did the audition, and I'm like, "Whoo, it's over! Thank God." And then I got back, and a couple of days later, I got the call from the director, and I got booked on my first acting role. I did the best Southern drawl I could do, and I got the role. You know, fast. It's crazy. I know it's crazy, right? But I took a chance. I think the big thing is like, it's like, don't be the one to say no to you. There's plenty of people out there who's going to say no to you. Don't you be the one, the first one in line to do that. I guess that's my caveat right there. So I didn't know any better. I went and I did it, and I got the role. Who'd have thought, right? So fast forward a year later, and in my first year of acting, I did 15 film projects and 16 commercials in one year.
Wow.
You know, and I met a lot of
Wow.
people. I know it's crazy, and I met a lot of people in the
Yeah.
process. They were all non-union. Some of it was like free. Some of it was just to get credits. But I worked, and then a lot of them was paid. But in the process, and I didn't do any background acting that first year. It was all like submitting for roles, right?
Yeah.
But I felt a sense of like guilt and a sense of like fraud, or a sense of like phony. I didn't feel I earned it, like I deserved it, because I was getting the roles, but I knew I was doing something right, but I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what it is that was doing it. And then when I run into people and I'm meeting people, and you kind of meet the same people in auditions and stuff like that, you start making, and then when you on set working with someone, you make friends, and you start talking, and you kind of, I felt guilty that, you know, I was doing this and they weren't, you know what I'm saying? So it kind of like, I didn't know what to do. So I decided to take some acting classes, right? I figured, let me do something. Let me learn something, you know, because these people who I'm meeting with, they know everything about, you know, Shakespeare, and they know everything about this director and that. I didn't know anything. So I went and I did an acting workshop with Chaz Palminteri, who wrote A Bronx Tale.
Yeah.
And it was a 3-day workshop, and the workshop was how to audition. Now, obviously, I wasn't having a problem with that, but it was Chaz Palminteri, right?
Yeah.
So I figured I'll learn something. And again, putting yourself out there to learn. So I went, I did the 3-day workshop. And my biggest takeaway from Chaz was that he said, Robert, you got to create your own opportunities and be present. So those are the two main things. What he meant by that is like, don't wait around for someone to do something for you. Go out there and find those opportunities to do it for yourself. And the other thing was to be present. Be where, hey, if there's a film festival, go to the film festival. If there's a gathering, go network, meet.
Yes.
You know, even if nothing comes out of it, you're meeting, you're in the you know, through osmosis, you're in the industry, right? So I took it to heart, and then the very next month, I went to my first film festival for one of the films I did in my first year, right? So this was in 2019, literally near the anniversary of my 1 year in acting. So I went to the film festival, and on the red carpet, I bumped into Joyce DeWitt, who played Janet on the TV show Three's Company. So I was like, oh, starstruck, and I asked if we could take a picture, and she said, yeah. And then I called my buddy from the movie. He's on that side. She's in the middle. I'm over here. And right before they snapped the picture, I joked with her, and I said, hey, we should do Three's Company too, right? And we had a good laugh about it, but that's the end of that. It didn't, that was it. I've never seen her since. I've never talked to her since or anything like that. But that rest of that night in the film festival, that's all I can think about. So on the drive home the next day, I'm putting together a storyline. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know anything. I didn't even know what a final draft was. I'm writing stuff on Word, and I show it to someone and say, listen, if you want people to take you seriously, you got to get on final draft. So I got it, and I learned how to do that. But I wrote that. That was on May 23rd of 2019. June 14th of 2019, 3 weeks later, I submitted that stage play. I wrote a stage play to the New York Winterfest Theater Festival. And a week later, I got an email from them saying, congratulations, your stage play has been selected. It will be staged off-Broadway at the Hudson Guild Theater. And I'm like, oh, wow. So now I got to put the show together.
Wow.
I put myself in it as the Ricardo Esteban Montenegro, that character. I wrote a character. It was a kind of like a pickup on what happened after Three's Company to Janet. It was a fix, but it's real funny farce comedy, right? So we staged it. We did 3 sold-out shows at the Hudson Guild Theater in New York, January 2020, right before COVID. And lo and behold, Richard Klein, who played Larry Dallas in the TV show, comes to my opening night, right? And then we become friends. He becomes a mentor to me. But this was at the time that I had already was finishing up in 2020, was finishing up, and we had just finished writing the Making the Trick, my feature film. And that started in 2020 because I bumped into a friend of mine that became my partner, my business partner, and on set of a TV show, we became friends. And after meeting Chaz Palminteri, he says, "Create your own opportunities." I wrote the Three's Company too, and then I started writing the Making the Trick, and by January of 2020, it was already done. But I'm wondering, what am I going to do with this script? I don't know. It's done. What do I do with it? I don't know how to make a movie, right? And then lo and behold, you posted something on Instagram, because I started following you. I had started following you, I think maybe 6-8 months before that. And I'm just watching what you're talking about, and all that really helped, and just listening to you and just motivating and getting motivated, inspired.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then you had posted something on Instagram saying something along the lines that tell me your story, or why you want to be a filmmaker or whatever, and the top 3 people will get a book. And I got the book.
Ah,
I got
oh
I
my
got
God.
the book. And let me tell you something. This book is so well written. It's so clear. It's so concise. It's for someone who didn't know anything of what the industry was, or what it just was a great roadmap. The clarity, the direction. It basically, once I read this in February of 2020. Obviously, this is before the whole COVID shutdown and all that.
Yeah.
But as soon as I read this, we already had the script, which is part 1.
Yeah.
Get the script, right? We had that one done, right?
Yeah.
The next part is pick a date.
Yeah.
I contacted my partner. I said, "Hey, listen, we're gonna do this in October, right? October, because I felt, I don't know why I picked October, but I didn't want to do it next year because I thought that was too wishful thinking. I wanted to do it in October because I felt that gives me enough time to maybe do what I need to do and find the people and do the stuff and raise the funds, because I had $0. I had literally no money to do this, but we were going to do this in October. Then I hired a line producer, got a line producer to, hey, look, here's the script. What can you do for that? I paid for the line producer to do the budget. Now at least I had a number. I had a budget of what it was going to do, and I kind of understood. I didn't know all of the people on set, but I saw that their positions were on the line. What's above the line? Everything that you put in the book was clearly step by step, something I can follow, right? And then having do that and having that date, now I had a line producer. Boom, I've got someone who had experience at this. That I'm not a novice at this, and I can count on that person to guide me through. I don't have to know everything, but I have to put the people in there that do know what they're doing. And then, okay, I have this person. Now I have to get a director. So we started looking for some directors and stuff like that. And lo and behold, I get Tom DiNucci, who also worked with Chaz Palminteri. I didn't know. He did this movie called Ball, but he's just a great director. And now I had a real director on my film, right? And okay, so he agreed to do it. Okay, good. Now what? So now we go. Now it made it easier for me to go to talk to people and tell them, hey, listen, I got this project. Here's the budget. This is what I got so far. This is what I got so far. I need to build the team. I'm doing it, but we need the budget. And then little by little, our first film was around 500, almost $600,000. And originally it was
That's
going to be a
substantial.
lot less. Well, originally it was going to be a lot less because I was just going to do it with a bunch of friends, right? But when you start getting these people, I'm in, and all of a sudden things become attainable. So one of the attainable things that we did is that on the script, I had sent or through my line producer, because I still didn't know what to do. Through our line producer, we submitted, and I said, hey, I would like to see, maybe, I know it's wishful thinking. Again, I had like a list of 5 people that I thought for the role of Detective Jones. I thought, hey, can we maybe see Peter Green? And then I had like all these other lists in there, Blue Diamond, just all these different people that just, you know what? I know it's crazy, but why not, right? Yeah. So we submitted an offer for a couple of days, 2-3 days, for Peter Green to play role of Detective Jones in the film that I wrote with my partner Oz, right? And that's another thing. I wrote the script and I started writing it, but because it was my first script and it was intimidating to me, I kind of asked my friend Oz Gomez, "Hey, I'll write you into the scene. Would you want to write it with me?" And he said no because he was scared. But I talked him into it, and we collaborated, and we wrote it. So I twisted his arm, and now we're partners. We have a outhouse production films, and we have a company. But so we sent an offer to Peter Green, and it was a few days, day player, cameo role, and stuff like that. And the manager came back and said, "Hey, Peter loved the script, but he wants to play the lead." And I'm like, "Really? He's got to. There's a scene he's got to dress in drag, right? He said he loves it. So out of character for him. He's never done it. He wants to do it. So okay, now that changed the budget because now he wanted more than what we had allocated for this. So we started thinking about it. I said, yeah, but it's Peter Green. So what I did is hey, look, I'm going to go out and I got to ask for money anyway because we still had no money. Yeah. we still had no money. It's crazy. So this is like moving in faith, right?
This is how it goes. This is how it goes. I'm like, you fake it and you act like it's happening until it happens.
You move forward as if.
Exactly.
That's the
thing.
Exactly. As if you can't tell yourself that it's not going to happen or it's not going to be possible. You just have to go out there. It's one of those things like crazy stuff when the people say they throw you in the ocean as a kid and sink or swim, right? That's a scary thought, but it's really sink or swim. So having that pressure, and it's pressure, it's a lot of responsibility to do it, but having that really gets you going because then when you talk to someone, they're not saying, "Hey, I want to do this." We're doing this. I've got this, and it's tangible for them to see. And then it goes to the point where what's their return and stuff like that. We'll get to that in a minute. But so we booked, we confirmed Peter Green, and then everything else started falling in place. We started getting more investors, and little by little, no one, no big investors yet. Everyone's like, "Hey, I got 10,000, I got 15,000, I got 5,000, I got 1,000." Whatever works, it's coming in. Here's your deal, and here's the waterfall agreement, and we'll do what we need to do. But as we got more, then all of a sudden I get a call that Federico Castelluccio from his people, because they're friends with Peter Green's management, and if he'd be interested in doing because I guess they referred it to Federico Castelluccio. Now he's played Furio Gunta in multiple seasons of The Sopranos, right? So I'm like, yeah. So now we got Peter Green, and then we start going through the process, and then I had shared the screenplay with Richard Klein. He's my mentor, so I shared it to him, and he says to me, "Do you have someone in mind for the role of Detective Rojo?" I'm like, "No, not yet. We're going to start casting for it." He said, "I got somebody if you don't mind." I said, "Yes, send them over." So Darlene Tejero, she sent me an audition for the role. She did fantastic. She got booked, but her reader was Richard Klein, and I don't know why I got so brave, or I didn't want to step on any toes or cross the line or anything. But I texted him, and one of the lines in the scene is the guy that reads with Darlene. The word is "f you puta," right? Right. It's a bad word, but so when I texted Richard, I said, "Richard, if I write you in just as a cameo, a few scenes and stuff like that, as a retiring captain, would you do it?" And his response, he's a comic, right? He responded, "F you, puto," right? So, but then he said, yeah. So then I wrote him in. So all of a sudden, this thing took a life of its own, and that's why the budget ended up where it ended up, right? But even though that was my October film, that was my first film. We were gearing up to do that film up in New York. COVID closed everything down. And then in April of 2020, my mother-in-law passed away from COVID. It was really hard for all of us. Everyone was isolated. We didn't get to see her. It was a tough situation for everybody. And I heard in the news somebody in an interview talk about it was perfectly acceptable to lose a few 100,000 lives in order to save the economy. And I thought that was an incredible statement, and just the dynamics of public health interest versus economic interest and that dynamic that was going on at the time. Open the economy, don't open the economy, all that stuff. So it just struck a nerve, and I sat down and I wrote a short film called The Dispensable. And I wrote that in April of 2020, and I actually shot it in July 2020. So I went from script to screen in 90 days, and that one was before we did the feature film, and I was able to put it together based on everything I learned from the book and what I was learning in the process of getting the feature done. So I got bold, I did it, and we did the film, and it was
How
done
long
during
is that
COVID.
film? You
What?
said it was short. How long is that film? You said it was a short, but
I think it's 19 or 20 minutes. I can't
yeah,
remember
it's
what
quite
it
a
is.
big short. You know,
Yeah,
because
yeah,
shorts can
yeah.
be 2 minutes or
Oh, no.
yeah.
It was found locations and everything. But what was interesting to me is that, we did it during COVID. A novice filmmaker got some friends, crew, and stuff like that. It's won a lot of awards. I mean, it really has won a lot
Did
of
you
awards.
direct that?
I directed. That was my directorial debut.
Right.
So I directed that film, but then that got me to think, and then I decided to move the production for the Making the Trick from New York and bring it down to Reading, Pennsylvania, where I'm at. And I've been doing films here since then. And it's been 2020 was when I started filmmaking. It's 2024. Last year was the last film that I directed, and I didn't write that one. All the other ones I've written and produced with my company. This one I got hired as a director to direct the film, and I casted the film. It's called The Dream Devil, and I casted Nick Turturro as my lead. I casted Lilo Brancato Jr. From A Bronx Tale into my film as one of the support actors. Nestor Serrano, Gonzalo Menendez, Darlene Tejero, Teresa Navarro. I mean, just incredible cast, and I got to direct that film. So that's my journey from where I started to where I'm at right now. And then right now I have a faith-based film. I've been lucky to do a lot of work. But I've been wanting to do something faith-based.
So
Yeah.
just before we talk about what you're doing now, let's just fill in the gap here. So you said in your message to me you've done 9 films in 4 years. It's
10.
amazing.
10.
It's amazing. I mean, honestly, just hearing your story, I just want to say how inspiring it is. And if you're here with us live, if you have questions for Robert, please do pop them into the chat. I know there's been people just saying, wow, this is incredible, So if you're here live and you want to give a question to Robert, please put it in there. But I mean, when I listen to you talking about your journey, I'm like, yeah, I'm fascinated all the time by who actually makes it happen. And, you just have this, like, the way that you tell that story, there's just a decision in you that I'm doing this, and it's like you weren't available for any other outcome, like the doubt just closed down and it's just like, I'm just doing this, right? Yeah. And, it's just so inspiring. I mean, if you think about, like, if somebody right now is watching this and they want to make a film, what would you say to them? Like they've got a script.
I said the only real reality right now, the only thing right now that is really keeping you from doing that is yourself. That's the only obstacle that you have right now that's stopping you. Because everything else, listen, everything that I've done, I'm grateful for what I've done, right? I'm grateful and happy, and I'm amazed myself at what I've done, but I didn't do it alone. It's impossible for me to do this alone. You have to get like-minded people to do what you need to do. And you start building a team. And if you're a screenwriter, there is a filmmaker out there that is at the same place as you are, that they want to make a film. They don't have a screenplay. You have a screen. Find that filmmaker who's looking for, and then put it together. Don't worry about the money. Don't worry about the budget. Start putting your team together. Get that. So if you got that, okay, I have a cinematographer that he's been doing, wedding videos, and he's been doing TikTok videos and stuff, but he's got all his equipment and stuff like that. He hasn't had the opportunity. I'll give you an example. One of my cinematographers, when I was shooting the Making the Trick, I went to a local restaurant here to pay for the catering, coordinate the catering, because when you're executive producer in a low budget film, you're everything, even the janitor. You're doing everything, right? So I was there negotiating and paying for the food, and there was a guy that worked a camera, and she introduces me to him, and he was a photographer. That's what he did. He was a photographer, and I said, hey, listen, you want to work as a set photographer for us, and we'll pay you something. And he said, yeah. So he became our set photographer. And I wish I would have known we were going to talk about this so I could show you the book. I don't have the book here. The book that he did after for Gratitude, that he put a whole book of behind the scenes for us, and he put it together. It was amazing. But when we finished that film, I saw some of the work that he did for music videos and stuff like that. And I was really impressed with his work. And I said, hey, man, would you be interested in shooting a short film? He says, yeah. So we shot actually 2 short films back to back, because the next short film we did was one that I wrote when I was doing The Dispensable. I saw a story about a guy in San Diego who he was a barista and he couldn't serve somebody because she wasn't wearing a mask, and she shamed him on social media, and it went viral, and he ends up getting $105,000 in donations through a GoFundMe that some random person did, and it went all over the news. So I reached out to him, and I got the rights to do the film, and I did the film, right? So I put him as my cinematographer, and then while we were filming that, Federico Sagastelucho read a little skit that I did called The Stakeout, and he thought it was funny. He said, hey, we should do that. And I said, well, we got the crew. We can finish this one. We shot 3 days on Karma Latte. We wrapped at 9 p.m. And then at 11 p.m. we started the Stakeout and shot overnight. We did a one-night shoot. So
I love this. I just love your whole approach, Robert. I'm so happy to have a chat with you.
Thanks.
Like, it doesn't surprise me at all that you're having all the success, because like that spirit of just like being inspired, moving fast, you know, building your team, being intuitive about that, not being obsessed. Like, people get so in their heads about like, what have they done? Like, what's their credits and everything. But just like giving people a chance, you know, and working with them.
And there's a lot of people out there that want to do it. I mean, you'll find it. So he's become like, I mean, this guy, he's become to the point where I have to make appointments with him now to see if he's available for me, because we all grow and we all move forward. But we all started there because everyone has, look, someone wants to learn to be sound. They have a sound equipment. They want to do sound. Someone wants to be a gaffer. You find all these people and you put your crew together and you make your film and just go out there and do it. The only thing that's stopping you is you. And then what the difference is whether you make a $20 million film or a $20,000 film or a $2,000 film. It all depends on what you're able to do. You don't let perfection be your stumbling block. Go out there and make your film. Make your film.
I agree.
And the first one is going to be that. It's going to be your first one. Then the next one, learn from what you did in that first one. Don't beat yourself up over the first one, and then make the second one and make it better and move forward with it. Now you have a credit. Now you have a portfolio. Now you keep moving and it's a lot easier to put together your team and get stuff going. I think someone had a question there.
Yes, they did. It was Doug. Doug asked the question, which is, what's the best way to get funding for a short film?
Good question. Listen, that's always the big thing. But first of all, you have to believe in your project. Okay, if you're like you have to believe in your project and have answers for the people who you're going to ask money. And it's all spelled out here. Do you know what a waterfall agreement is? Do you know how that works? What that process is to say, okay, if you put this money, the valuation of this film is this much, you're going to get this much for it. And then that's a conversation that we got to get more into the weeds on. But there's a standard formula for that you can offer investors to come in and ask everyone. And I literally mean everyone. And if I talk to somebody, if I'm walking down the street, I'm having a coffee, I'm talking to them about my project. I'm telling them, not that I want to do this, I'm telling them what I'm doing. I'm doing this, we're going to do this, this is why it's going to be great. You have to believe in what you're doing. But then you talk to them and tell them and say, listen, we need $100,000, but I got investor opportunities. Hey, if you ever want to be in the film and want to get into film business, look, this is why you should do it. If you put in the United States, if you know that if you invest $5,000 or $10,000 or $50,000 into a film, and you put the corporation as a LLC for that film, all of a sudden the money that you put in there, you could write it off of your taxes because it's an investment, and you get your K-1 at the end of the year for the. I know we're getting into the weeds, but
no, it's good. It's good weeds to get into. I love that you're sharing this.
Yeah, because an investor comes in, it's like, okay, look, you're going to have people who have money,
yes, and
you're going to have people who have 401ks or whatever, but I wouldn't mind putting the money. And you know what? Can you get me on a roll? Yeah. What do you want to do? If I don't have a role for you, I'll write I wrote the script,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
I'll
I've done
write
that
you in.
too. I wrote in a role. I was like, there are no roles in this film, but I'm writing one in for you.
I'll write one in for you. You'll be surprised. Listen, that's the biggest thing. You'll be surprised how many people would love to be on a film because they never had an opportunity to
Yeah,
do
and it's
that.
fun
It's
for
fun.
them. It's like they get to learn and they get to be part of it. I
Yeah.
mean, one of my sort of mentors was this guy, Dave McWhinney, who invested some money in my first film. But he blew me away because he had made what everyone says is impossible to make as a low budget movie. He made like a historical epic in Scotland, like a Macbeth
Oh,
movie, right? With big
wow.
army scenes. And he made it for less than £500,000. And I was like, how did you get the money and how did you do it for that much? He goes, so we got all the people, like all the people who were in the big battle scenes, they all paid to be in the movie. They were all these like reenactors. And he was like, we just put out the word amongst reenactors. You can pay £5,000 to be in the movie, right? And if you pay 10,000, then you got to meet the star of the film. I think it was Jason Connery or something, right?
Wow.
And you got to have a picture with him, and you got something, And he was like, and all these people, like 100 people signed up, right?
Yeah.
So that now they have their extras and they have their budget.
Absolutely.
Genius.
And that's another great point that you put in this, because look, if you have a budget, there's different ways to raise the funds. You can get someone to say, hey, I'm going to put in the money. Or let's say you have a location that you have to use, right? Or a plane you have to rent or something like that that's going to cost you money. If you don't have the funds for that, you can go and talk to them. Hey, listen, can we use your plane on this film? Here's the script, here's the scene, stuff like that. We'll give you credits on the film. If you want to, be a pilot on the plane, we'll put you in there. And then just provide us the plane as an example. This is just an example. And then you could do something in the trade, and then whatever the value of that, you could just write it off of your budget. It's the same thing as getting cash. But back to the question about raising funds. Talk to everyone, and no dollar amount is too low, right? If someone says, I got $1,000 to support you, I got $5,000 to support you, you start putting all that in the pot, and you keep moving forward. And once you get that momentum going and people see what's happening, it becomes real, and it becomes easier for someone to say, yeah, I'll support you. And then you have people who have businesses, and they are business people, and they have their business, and they might be like, hey, I got this great business, but man, I'm so bored here. I'm so tired of being here. This is an exciting thing. I would love to. Can I work on the project? Can I come help? That kind of stuff. And I'll invest. I'll invest. So to answer your question, you talk to everyone, and don't stop. When you stop asking for money, once the movie is out there and done and distributed, because even when you take the money that you need for the production and to produce the film and stuff like that, what do you do with it after? You have to get it distributed. If you have to do some promotion, you're going to need money whenever it is to do something, right? So you want to be able to continue to ask money and get what you need. And it's not let me put it this way. It's definitely not impossible. It depends on what you put into it, and don't be afraid to ask. The moment you say, I want to ask this person, and you say to yourself, no, I'm not going to, you already defeated yourself. The moment you say to yourself, no, I'm not going to ask that guy's not going to do it, that's the time that you definitely have to go, because that's the one that's probably going to say yes, but
I
be
have a question,
prepared.
like about short film, because I've never made a short film. So quick question. Is there a path to monetizing a short film?
Well, here's the thing. I'm going to say yes, but with a lot of caveats. It depends on what your expectation is to monetize it. A short film is basically mostly a business card, a calling card, a portfolio of what you're able to do. You, your team, your actors, and stuff like that. And you submit it to film festivals, and you start getting awards and stuff like that. Right now, I'm actually working on a deal right now that I'm trying to put together a compilation of about 6 of my shorts and put them together, and put them out on like either as one unit. I don't know if you've gone to the hotels and you see like must see movies, or at the hotel, stuff like that. You can go and you could watch some movies, and here's a 2-hour movie and you pay $20 to do a movie. Or you could go there and you don't have time for it, but you want to watch a bunch of shorts, you could do that. So I'm in negotiations right now to see if I can get that done, to see how that operates. And there are platforms out there, but they're so pennies to the dollar that you're not gonna make. Another way that you could do, and this is something that we can do, but I haven't done it, and I thought about it. I have enough short films that I could put them together and then find nonprofit organizations
Ooh,
maybe that can have like a movie. What was that? I got.
the fireworks are going
Oh
off.
wow! I don't know how that
That was
happened, but that's
amazing.
great. I said, did I do something
It's a
wrong? Thank you, whoever
sign.
did that.
No, you did something right. That was the fireworks. It's a sign that like that's what you should do.
Oh,
So
that sounds good. So one of the things that I've done, and I actually I did it for one nonprofit, so that they could raise some funds. But if you could put together either if you have more than one short film, or if you have just one short film, and find other people with like-minded short films, and then get together on a collaboration to offer that to maybe a nonprofit, and have them do like a movie night or something, and then maybe travel that movie night to different places,
right.
and then split and say, look, we're going to do this. It's a nonprofit thing. You raise funds for you, and then whatever we raise, we'll split it, and then we'll share it amongst our film partners here. And then there's ways to at least recoup the monies that you
Yeah.
spent on your film. You just have to get very creative.
I know.
But there's ways
I
to
mean,
do it.
hey, my thing always, and you know this from the book, is return on investment for investors in movies is not always about like cash return, you know. And I think actually, to be honest, I'm really clear about this, that when you are looking for the investors, that making the cash return thing the primary thing is a little bit untruthful,
Yeah.
you know, a little bit like, you know, when I see business plans for movies that are totally like, we're going to make money, we're going to make so much money, I'm kind of like, it's kind of a lie, you know, like you got to be pointing out to any investor in your movie anyway that it's a very high risk investment and they shouldn't, you know, invest unless they are happy to actually never see that money again. I mean, I just think that's the truth.
And the reality, if you enjoy doing this, you know, hey,
Right.
listen, if I could do this and not have to worry about money, I don't care about the money. I love doing what I'm doing, right? Yeah. But unfortunately, you have to rent a location.
Yeah.
You have to come up
Yeah.
with money, raise money. And there are people who, you know, if they want to put money, they want to see a return. Their best bet is probably a feature film
Yeah.
to at least start recouping on the money. On the short films, it's basically a passion project, and but there are ways to make money. You just have to get creative. You could do your own movie night. Hey, do a and then invite people to pay little by little. You do listen. If you did 20 movie nights in a year in different markets, and each movie night got you $1,000, between everything that you did. You made $20,000. I don't know how much the films cost you, but that's $20,000 you didn't have that year. So there's ways to do it. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can do it.
That. So I'm just seeing some of the other questions. Sylvie's and Son said, what short films are most successful, please? I wonder if you mean actually of Robert's films, because how many short films have you made then? 6?
I made six films. One of them was actually written by my daughter and directed by my other daughter, The Void.
Amazing.
And then yeah, it's kind of like osmosis here. Look, here's the thing. My personal, I'm sure there's an answer to that, but I'm gonna tell you my personal view on this. Okay, I don't go about looking at what is successful out there. I go about the art of what I want to put out there, and this is what I want to put out there, right? If you have something that you want to put out there, put it out there. But to answer your question, look, action films, horror films, unfortunately to me, those are the ones that like everybody gravitates to, right? You want to do a faith-based film, which is what I'm doing now, a feature film. It's a little bit more people are like, I don't want to get involved in a faith-based film, whatever. Okay, I get it. Comedy is a good one, but action
It's interesting.
films.
I would have thought faith-based. I mean, it seems to me like it's a particular niche, but it seems like it's a niche that there's money in that. I mean, people
there is.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, and I'm going to get to that because that's the next project that I'm actually in right now. But the question is, if I go to someone and say, hey, I've got this film with Peter Green and we're going to shoot him up, bang him up. It's like a lot of blood and gore and action, and there's a drag hooker in it and stuff like this. Boom, we're going to do this. People, hey, I'll put money on that, right? So, but you tell them, look, I got this, and I'll tell you in a minute what the film is. It's a real personal film. But you tell them you're going to do this faith-based film. It's a lot harder to. I found that it's not as harder. I've got an investor out of Switzerland who's invested money in this film, right? And they reached out to me, and I gave them like, hey, these are the projects I'm working on. I sent it to them. and said, "This is the one I want to go with," and that's what
Amazing.
and I have an investor in Texas who came in, and this is what they want to do. And then on this faith-based film, this is a $400,000 budget film. All right.
Are you going to be
it's
directing this?
I'm directing it. Yeah. I wrote it originally. Let me tell you how this thing came about, and I guess I can talk about it now.
Yeah,
And
I'd
it's
love
a
to hear it.
personal film, for me as a Cuban American. This film is completely fiction, but there's a lot of truthful nuggets in there that are real to me that I incorporated into. So that's it's a personal passion project for me, right? When my parents came from Cuba, on July 4th, 1962 is when they arrived into the United States, on July 4th. My mom, the way she told the story to me is that her and they thought that the fireworks were celebrating their arrival to the United States.
Oh.
It was one of those things. So that's the story. But my dad cut out on my mom when I was 10 months old. I didn't get to meet my dad again, or I don't have any memory of him until I was about 13, because he left. He didn't pay child support. He didn't do anything. He just took off, right? And so I grew up without a father. And I knew who my father was. I had a picture of him, and he looked like Cary Grant. The picture, the black and white picture I had, was of my dad. He looked like Cary Grant. So I grew up watching Cary Grant films, thinking that was my dad. And Cary Grant was cool. I finally met my dad. It was no Cary Grant, but we had like a really. I love my dad, but we would never. It never really got like this. Like, it was always like a cordial type of a thing. And so, but when I was a kid growing up, I would have this recurring dream. And in that dream, it was a carnival, and I could see it nighttime, and it was a recurring dream. It was so real. You had the carnival rides and everything going on, and people going in there with their kids, and I couldn't go in there because it was a carnival ride for father and sons only, right? And in my dream, I would be crying. I was 5, 6 years old. I would be crying so passionately that I would wake up from my dream really crying. And this is something that came about. So I started writing Children of a Fatherless Child when I found out that my dad was dying of cancer. So I started writing that. But one of the things that for me that I've always lacked is a connection to my past. A lot of people can trace their ancestry, all they knew. I know my mom. So from my perspective, my parents came here. I don't know anything beyond I knew my parents and my grandparents, but I don't have any history because of Cuba and everything that happened in Cuba. So I didn't have any connection to my past. So a few years back, someone reached out to me from Spain, Asturias, Spain, and they asked me about my Morgalo lineage, and they were able to find the parochial book from the 1800s in Asturias, Spain, and the page. They took a picture. They sent me a picture of it, of my great 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 grandfather Eduardo Morgalo. So now I had the end point. I don't have in the in between points. So I started writing Children of a Fatherless Child when my dad was diagnosed with cancer. He was dying. We started kind of like building a that moment, that relationship and stuff like that. And my dad didn't want me around when he was sick down there. But when he was bad, I said, "Dad," he said, "Okay, if I come see you." He said, "Yeah," and I knew when he said, "Yeah," I knew that was something. So I went down there. I was actually holding his hand when he died, and that was 2 years ago. And when he died, my stepmom gave me a whole bunch of papers I didn't know existed. I got birth certificates. I got baptism. I found out that my grandmother on my father's side, I always thought everybody was Cuban. She was adopted, and she was Dominican. So I found out I had Dominican. But I was able to connect the dots all the way back to Spain. So now I was able to finish the script, and I wrote the script. So there's all these little nuggets in there. So the storyline of this particular film, Children of a Fatherless Child, it's a Cuban American who dad cut out when he was young. He didn't have it. Everything he has, he attributes to his own will and work ethic. He doesn't believe in God. He's not a God person. He has a bone to pick with God because his pregnant wife got into a car accident and she died. The baby died. He has angry at God. And he's a hugely successful pharmaceutical attorney. and but then he goes to the doctor. He finds out he's dying, so he's got no legacy, no future to leave forward of everything that he's got. This huge success. What's it mean? And he's got no connection to the past. And then on the drug night that he's there at the apartment at his house by himself, he sees an advertisement for a lineage DNA kit to trace your back. So he figures, look, I'm going to die. I might as well at least try to do my lineage.
Yeah,
And in
yeah.
the process, he does this DNA test, and he finds out, that he didn't know because of some indiscretion when he was younger. He has a daughter. So now all of a sudden he starts investigating who this daughter is, and apparently the daughter has a child as well, who everyone's connection here is that they don't have a relationship with their father.
Right.
She didn't have a relationship with her father because her mother was a Las Vegas showgirl who met the lead character and had a baby, and then she ends up growing up in foster care. She grows up in foster care. When she's 18, she gets out, she meets a boy, she gets pregnant, he leaves her. She's got this 6-year-old kid she's raising on her own. She has a criminal record because, she's just trying to survive raising the kid, but she's faith-based, right? And so he goes out there and he finds her, but doesn't say to her that he's the father. He just hires her to be his travel assistant because he's going to go connect the dots. So this thing is filmed in the U.S., in Havana, Cuba, and in Asturias, Spain. So it's one of those things like, you know what, I'm gonna get this thing done. I don't know how, but we're gonna do it.
I love
And
it.
so last year, a year and a half ago, I sent my cinematographer over to Asturias, Spain. We looked at the locations. We had the locations, and we had the budget. I was gonna shoot this as a SAG project, but with the SAG rules, you have your regular SAG contract. You have your ultra low budget, moderate low budget, micro. You have all these lower budget tiered agreements. But if you shoot one day overseas, you can't use any of them. You have to use a standard agreement. So that went out the way. Yeah, you can't. If you do one date overseas, you can't use any of the low budget agreements. You have to use the standard, which that priced us out completely.
Yeah.
So I thought, oh man, that's over. It's done. But then I started thinking about this, and I said, you know what? I don't need to shoot this SAG. I'm going to do non-union. And I started casting. I got some great auditions for the role of Robert, the Gabby. I already know who she's going to do. I've got it already cast. But the interesting about this is that, like I said, it's a $400,000 budget, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how am I going to do this? It's what am I going to do? I got to raise $400,000. But then I talk to everybody, and everybody is on board. The most of everybody is on board to doing this on a deferred basis, meaning, hey, they're going to get paid. This is your day rate for your work. This is how much we're going to pay you. But listen, you're not going to get paid until this film is done and we get it out there. And when money starts coming in, you're going to get paid, whatever that is. But this is what this film owes you. You know what? Everyone's okay with that. So I have to raise, we've raised some money. I have to raise another $35,000 so that we can shoot this in October. And I'm moving forward. I found locations. I found some Miami locations. I'm moving forward as if, hey, we're going to get this. I know we're going to get this. I don't know where it's going to come from.
35,000 is doable.
What?
It's 35,000 is doable. You're going to get
yeah. And that's just to pay for travel, because you can't,
there's
travel.
some things you can't get around.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
There's some things,
Travel, hotel, locations, and meals, right? Travel, hotel, locations, and meals. And there might be some people we have to pay because they're not on board. Hey, we're going to do that. But the majority of people, so I went from $400,000 to a lot less, and what I need is $35,000 to do. So I decided, you know what? I'm going to start a GoFundMe. I have a GoFundMe out there. I got $95 raised in there. I've never been good at GoFundMe. Some people are really good at that. I am not the one, but I've got it out there. But I have, investment opportunities for people, and it's not a big lift. I know we're going to get it because, $35,000 is not a lot of money, where it's $4,000 from here, $5,000 from here, and there's a return. It's a good, standard operating. So I know we're going to get it. I know we're going to get it somehow. People will reach out. The guy from Switzerland reached out to me and said, hey, you got any projects I'd like to do? And then he invested, So I didn't even know who he was. He reached out to me through this stuff. So I know it's going to happen. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Because I'm feeling like for your film, like, and I get these like intuitives. I'm like, okay, obviously like Cuban immigrants, like people who are Cuban who have that shared history might be very good targets to go.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And but you also have to, one of the I think that I've learned from this particular script when I share it with people is how it resonates with so many different people from so many different backgrounds. Because you'd be surprised how many people have that shared experience of not having a father in the house,
Absolutely.
and that really
Yeah.
hits home. So the arc of this particular individual, he goes from, like, he's got a bone to pick with God. He's got, but when he realizes everything that's going on, his arc is just an incredible arc. To finally, it ends up where he ends up in the film, and it's just an incredible journey. But what I'm really looking forward to is the cinematography of
Mhm.
this, because Asturias, Spain is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's just amazingly beautiful. So I can see the
Yeah.
so we already shot the opening scene of the script and the ending scene of the script, and we shot another scene. We got those out the way. I'm gonna start shooting a little bit of, like, because the big problem was going to be Cuba, shooting over there. So what I decided to do, because we were originally going to go to Cuba with the crew, and then you have to partner with a production company in Cuba, and the politics and the government and all that. So what I decided to do is I'm going to go to Cuba and then shoot all of my establishing shots, and then the scenes that I need where they're walking through, get them really done well, and then shoot them on green screen here in a studio, so that way I don't have to fly everybody over there, and I don't have to run the risk that we fly over there and something happens and we couldn't
Yeah.
film. We
Totally.
couldn't.
Totally. That's that thing with, because a friend of mine made a film for like $250,000 or so. That some of it was set in Shanghai, I think. But they didn't. That's why I was interested about that SAG rule, because I was like, oh. But then I'm not sure that she ever took any actors there. Like they went over there and shot some stuff. Maybe they had one actor there. I don't know. It's
Yeah,
kind of
yeah, yeah. If we shoot one day of scenes in the country, it has to go through
yeah,
their standard
yeah.
agreement. That's expensive, because it's a day rate for every travel day, you're going out
No, totally. No,
every day
it's
sitting
back. Yeah,
around, and
yeah,
you can't negotiate anything other than whatever the day rate is.
yeah.
So I thought it was over, but again, you can't let those you can't let obstacles. There's going to be plenty of
This is
obstacles.
it. And this is like your mindset has to be like everything is doable, like everything is figure outable. There's a way around everything, and actually, often the restrictions make for a better film. This is my own attitude about it. Like, yeah, you could throw money at everything if you had money, but if you don't have money, you got to come up with solutions that are creative and that actually serve the story, and often it makes it
Yeah,
better.
yeah.
I just see a question here. Saul said, "Have you considered Puerto
I
Rico?"
saw that, and it's funny because we looked at different things in Puerto Rico. I wanted to stay true to the storyline. I'm sure there are places in Puerto Rico that we can shoot that can
Yeah,
go, and that's still an option. We have considered that as well. But I think, like, for example, what we can do is we can shoot all the establishing shots in Havana, and then
yeah,
find, even in Miami, Little Havana, I can find the interior shots that
yeah.
we can cheat it, and then find a restaurant that
It's
can
actually another friend of mine made a movie that was like, it's meant to be LA and London.
right.
It was about a love affair that took place in LA and London, and they showed it all in LA.
Yeah,
And they did a couple of like exterior shots, like establishing shots in London, but without the actors because they didn't have the funds for
yeah.
it.
Well,
And the interiors that are meant to be London, are actually all shot in LA. And what's really funny is if you have and this film did really well. It won Sundance one year, so it did really well. It was made for a few $100,000, but the only thing that they missed was one of the sockets. There is an American socket showing in one of the scenes.
yeah,
It's like, that's meant to be in London, and that's an American socket,
yeah,
So funny.
yeah,
But you never know. This is movie trickery. Like,
yeah.
people don't know where you are. If it's interior, you can shoot it anywhere. I mean,
No, absolutely.
you
And,
know,
and two things. I found out that I think it's in Madrid. I think it's in Madrid. There's like a replica of Cuba in Madrid. There's like a replica. They got like a malecón. So I have to look into that as well. But I don't want to shoot those scenes over there. But I was told about them. But something that's interesting that also that you just reminded me of, when we were shooting the opening scene and the closing scene of the film. Remember the carnival ride and stuff like that? We were gonna kind of like guerrilla warfare the shot. We were gonna go
yeah.
outside and shoot there and stuff like that. So we were going there the day before to kind of like scope out the thing. And I talked to one of the guys, one of the carnies. I said, "Hey, can we shoot this thing? We'll put you on the movie." He said, "You're gonna have to talk to the owner." And I'm like, "Oh,
Yeah.
we're shooting tomorrow. I don't want to ask for permission, and they're gonna say no." But I was already in too late, right? So now I go talk to the owner of the carnival, and I said, "Hey, this is what we're doing." He said, "Well, as long as it doesn't interrupt our it's our biggest night. You know, you can go ahead. So he gave us the permission to do it.
Right.
So now here we are shooting a zero budget film, a scene, and it looks. My wife told me, she's the one who pointed it out to me. She says, you know, is this going to look like a major production,
Yeah.
you know, shot?
I love it.
And you got it. It's
Yeah.
crazy, you know. So yeah, ask and go out there and just be bold and courageous, you know.
I know. So we're going to wrap this up in a minute, but I just want to see if anybody who's here with us live has any questions. If you've got any questions for Robert about getting films made and all that good stuff. And Robert, make sure that you send me your GoFundMe link.
It's in my bio, but I'll send it to you. It's in
Okay.
my bio here.
Cool.
But
So
I'll
if you want to contribute to Robert's film, go check it out. Go to his bio and you should be able to find it.
Sounds good. And if there's anyone out there that's interested in maybe coming on board as a producer with us and partner with us, send me a DM me, and I can send you all of the particulars for the investment opportunities. Like I said, it's $4,000 is the minimum for an investor, you know, and it goes up from there. But you know, my GoFundMe is there, and follow me on Instagram. I'd like to get to know you.
Yes, I know, absolutely. So Sylvie's and Son said, would you consider making The Comedy of Errors by Shakespeare set in a Latin American setting as a musical with Latin Spanish music as a musical?
Well, I would consider doing anything. Sounds very good. A couple of things. I'm not very musically inclined. My daughter is. She's written and produced her own and directed her own music video. She's you know, she's really talented writing music and stuff like that. I'm not a musical guy, so I've got somebody who actually, for my Three's Company 2 screenplay, stage play, they saw it, and I'm adapting that as a screenplay. But they saw that, and they actually they wrote the whole score to turn that stage play into a musical. Right. So it's funny how people reach out to you and do stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah.
I think Doug has contributed to your fund.
Thank you. I appreciate you, Doug. I really appreciate you.
That's awesome. I always say, like, I mean, filmmakers support other filmmakers. You know, that's the vibe. That's the vibe. Like, I always go with crowdfunding. You know, if you ever plan to crowdfund yourself, it behooves you to contribute to other people's crowdfunding.
Absolutely.
You know? It does, like, what goes around comes around. Yeah. You know? And I always have this thing, too, that if you cannot contribute, sometimes money might tell you, and you really can't give money that time. Although I'm always like, just $5. Just give $5.
Yeah. Or share
it. Yes, but I was going to say, but if you really can't give even $5, share it. Just consider, like, finding the person, you know, the link about it, post something about it. You know, the more that we help each other as indie filmmakers, the better it is for all of us. Like, that's just a fact. Because like you said, Robert, and I love that you shared that, you can't do this alone.
No.
It's all about, you know, it's like all of it. Every step of this journey is about other people and connecting with others and working together. You know, there's no one-man band movie ever.
Yeah. And one thing, when we get to Spain, and we're going to do, I don't know how far our studio Spain is from where you are. I would love for you to come up to set it. You can get up there.
Thank you. That would be amazing. That would be amazing. I'm in Sitges, so if you want to come to Sitges, you know, come and visit over here.
All right.
We're just south of Barcelona.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Sounds good.
Very close to Barcelona. So if you want to do some shooting there or something, come over here.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure.
Absolute pleasure, an absolute delight. I'm so happy that we got the chance to connect, and you know, and I'm just so thrilled for you.
And get the book if you want to learn how to make a movie. This is your blueprint right here. Get it.
Shoot from the heart. Yeah. That's my book. Yeah. And I just like you know, I'm just so proud of you and so happy for you. And just like I can't wait to see what you do next, and you know, your next film and the next one after that. You're just an inspiration, I think, too. Like, we just didn't mention this, but you know, the fact that you came to this after a whole other life, you know, that in itself is very inspiring. And I think maybe that's partly what's giving you this fuel, you know, because I don't know, it's interesting to me, right?
It's a ride. And you know, I started at 52, I'm 58, so it's been 6 years. And 6 years is what I've been doing all this stuff. And it's given me a whole new lease in life. And like I said, I had PTSD. I was in a bad shape. And it's just I give it forward. I give out. I do acting workshops. One of the biggest joys that I have is I share it with other people. You don't know how many people I've told them to buy this book and they bought it. People who've never acted before, I give them these acting workshops, and now they become working actors. So to me, it's just such a joy. I'm just loving this part of my life.
Yes. Yes, Sylvie and Son, you can get the book on Amazon. So it's called Shoot from the Heart, and it's totally there on Amazon. And it does just give you a very actionable blueprint for making your movie. Like
It's like the yellow brick road in filmmaking.
it's pretty nuts and bolts. You know, it's like, you know, if you don't really know, like you're like, how would I do this? It will tell you how to do it and guide you through it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to Robert. And please, everybody, if you're watching this, follow Robert. You're amazing. And where can we see your films as well?
Well, right now in the U.S. Right now in the U.S., you could watch the film on Tubi and Roku. It's distributed in U.S. Canada only, right?
Which
But
movie
we'll
is
work.
that? What's
What?
it called?
It's called The Make and the Trick. It
The
stars
Mick and the Trick.
The Make and the Trick. It stars Peter Green from Pulp Fiction, Jazz Villa from Cuba. It's a Cuban actor. Jazz is in Spain right now, finishing up a TV series. But Jazz is an acclaimed Cuban actor. Plays the sugar, the drag hooker in the film. It's got a great cast on the film. It's dark comedy. It's action. You could probably go on YouTube and find the trailer. It's called The Making the Trick, and you can watch it on Tubi and Roku, right? The United States, and then we're waiting on getting distribution overseas.
Amazing, so good.
All right,
so good. All right, everybody, thank you so much. Oh, please put a pic of it. Is it the book you mean? Yes. Oh yeah, I'll put a picture of it into my stories or something. Shoot from the Heart. Called Shoot from the Heart. Yeah, it shows it there. It shows it like we're in reverse, in mirror image. Yeah.
Oh, it's still mirror image.
Yeah, you know what I mean. It's like in reverse.
Yeah, it's backwards. Okay.
But you can figure it out. It's called Shoot from the Heart. If you go to Amazon, type in Shoot from the Heart, you'll find it. Thank you so much, Robert. I feel like we should have another conversation again soon.
Whenever you want.
Yeah, it'd be great. I just
All
love what you're doing. I love what you're about.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here today.
I appreciate you so much. Take care. All right.
Bye.
Bye-bye.